Seriously? You're pregnant? You're giving birth at an older age, so this kid is definitely gonna have disabilities. Their future is dark. For a moment, I didn't understand what my husband was saying. My husband continued without a trace of apology. If it's a handicapped child, I can't take care of them. It would cost a lot of money and I don't want that kind of hard life. Get an abortion. If you don't, I'll divorce you. Is this the true nature of my husband? Isn't marriage about supporting one another? Has all the time and hard work I've put into a waste? Frustration and sadness crossed my mind, and this is where my second life began. If you want a divorce, then fine. However, I will raise the child so well under any circumstances that you will regret it. It didn't take long for me to cool down. I quietly gave my consent to divorce. Suit yourself. You can't raise them by yourself. Not like they're going to turn out any good. At best, you'll have to make do with a handicapped child. I can't keep quiet since my husband insulted our child this much. Since it was my husband who initiated the divorce, I would never let him get his way. Women are strong creatures. I will definitely raise my baby well and make my husband regret his decision. That's how I felt. I will be 58 years old this year. I met my ex-husband when I was in college, married him at the age of 30, and we were happily married for a while. Having grown up in a single mother home, I had a strong longing for getting married early and having a warm family with children. My husband understood my situation and said he loved children. But when he saw children on the street, my husband did not seem to care for them, and he rarely talked to me about them. I assumed that because he was a man, he was just too embarrassed to talk about it. However, after many years of marriage, we were still not blessed with children, and I was becoming a little impatient. As this situation continued, my husband gradually became more reluctant to have children than he had been at one time. Perhaps he was trying to take care of me so as not to put too much strain on me physically and mentally. Eventually, at the age of 38, when I was about to give up on the idea of having a child, I finally managed to conceive a child. I was so happy. I was sure that my husband would be happy too, after all that we've been through. At least that's what I thought. Hey, look at this. It sounds similar to what we talk about. My husband suddenly said this while watching TV. It was a medical program, in which a doctor consults with the viewers about their childbirth problems. The subject of the consultation was a woman who would soon be in her late 30s. She said that she and her husband wanted to go to the hospital for a checkup to discuss children, but she was having trouble telling her husband about it. You're getting pretty old too. What are you talking about? I haven't given up yet. The woman on TV and I are close in age, so I couldn't help but relate to her. I was sucked into the show. I look at my husband and he seemed to be smiling a little. She can't have a kid. She should just give up. My husband was muttering to himself to the TV. You don't have to say that. You make it sound like you're talking to me. What are you getting all emotional about? You need to face the reality too. I was getting angry, but I decided to cool down a bit. I didn't want to fight too much because the longer we were married, the more we tended to argue about things. I thought to myself, this is just a TV show. Even this woman might be made up. It was my fault for getting emotionally involved with someone I didn't even know. Let's forget about it. I told myself that. But I thought about it a lot. I haven't given up on having a child, and I haven't said a word about it, so why did Steve suddenly start talking like that? My husband's words were strangely bothering me, but I didn't dare question him because I was getting paranoid, so I stopped thinking about that and thought positively about what I could do. Yes, let me just go to the hospital and get some tests done. If there were something wrong with me, it would make sense. I made up my mind to go to the hospital as soon as possible. After the examination, the doctor said there was nothing wrong with my body and that it was probably due to my physical constitution and lifestyle. I was relieved just to know that my body was not incapable of having children. So then, is there a problem with my husband? But I think he told me a long time ago that he once got his girlfriend pregnant when he was younger. I'm sure what the doctor told me is right. I was able to quickly reassure myself that it was unlikely that my husband was the cause of the problem, which gave me a little hope that I should be able to do it if I tried hard enough. But more than that, I wondered how I could get my husband to cooperate with me, who has recently been slowly reluctant to have a child. This has become a bigger concern than the fact that we can't have children. I wonder if he has given up on the idea of having children, and if so, I feel it is my fault. Or maybe he is too busy with his work these days and doesn't have the energy to try so hard to have a baby. Either way, I wanted to know how my husband felt, but I didn't have the courage to ask him directly, so I tried to find out by bringing up the matter about the program the other day. Hey, remember the medical program we saw on TV the other day? I was thinking maybe the husband is a problem. I jokingly said this and watched my husband's reaction. Oh, that show, the one where the woman said she couldn't have kids? That's right, I kind of relate to it, so I thought about it a little bit after that. It's just a TV show, right? Are you that bored to be thinking about that? I know it's just a TV show, but women's problems are so emotional that I can't help but relate. Married couples go through a lot, and sometimes it's hard for wives to ask their husbands about their problems. I don't care about other people's pregnancies. You're being annoying about this too. I could care less about any of this. So, you don't care about having a child with me? That's not what I mean. Don't make this the same as the TV show. Besides, you have better things to think about. My husband's response was as if he was trying to end the conversation, and although I was not sure what he was trying to say, he still seemed less willing to cooperate. The next night, my husband had a drinking party at work and came home drunk. He collapsed on the sofa and fell asleep. When I went to the sofa to at least cover him with a blanket, I saw that he had his cell phone in his hand. The phone screen was on and I saw that he was messaging with someone on it. I felt guilty, but I looked at it. It was a conversation between my husband and a friend. It described my husband's feeling about our marriage and seemed more like he was complaining than asking for advice. The substance of the conversation was that my husband could no longer see me as a woman and that procreation was painful. I could read that part, but not the rest of the conversation. I wish I hadn't seen it. I couldn't hide my shock, but I felt a little remorse, wondering if I had forced him too much. I knew that my husband had lost interest in having children, but I still didn't give up and asked him to cooperate, albeit half-heartedly. Around the time I turned 38, I noticed that what was coming every month was not coming. I thought it couldn't be, so I bought a pregnancy test at the pharmacy and it came back positive. There was a possibility that it was a false positive, so I went to the gynecologist just to be sure. The result was that I was 6 weeks pregnant. Steve, we did it! We did it! What's a granny like you yelling about? A child! I'm pregnant! My husband fell silent. I wondered if he was surprised or maybe actually pleased, but I wanted to hope that he was really pleased. But I was completely wrong. You're really pregnant? You're giving birth at an older age, so this kid is definitely gonna have disabilities. Their future is dark. For a moment, I didn't understand what my husband was saying. My husband continued without a trace of apology. If it's a handicapped child, I can take care of them. It would cost a lot of money and I don't want that kind of hard life. Get an abortion. If you don't, I'll divorce you. What? Isn't this the baby you've been waiting for? How dare you? I was so emotional that I burst into spontaneous tears. Waiting for? You wanted a child so badly that I let you go see a doctor. You should be thankful that I didn't oppose you from the start. I knew it. That's a terrible thing to say. I can forgive him for abusing me. but I can't forgive him for assuming that my unborn child would be handicapped. And even if the child had some kind of disability, thinking about how much money they would cost us makes me assume that my husband only thought of the child to be some sort of tool that has to be maintained. So that's the kind of person you are, even when you pretend to be a good person in front of people at work. Shut up. I'm the one in pain from your compulsive behavior. You're the one who can't understand people's feelings. After a short argument, my husband reiterated, just abort the baby. Promise me. Also, I won't pay for it. You pay for it all. I'm not getting involved. If you break this promise, we'll get a divorce. I'm not at his beck and call. I'm getting a divorce because it's my baby and I'm going to have it. Doctor, I'm going to have the baby. When I went to the doctor's office to see if I was pregnant, I wasn't with my husband, so I guess the doctor was a little concerned. Please decide right away what you want to do with the baby. I was told in advance. However, I had already made up my mind to have the baby, and there was no more doubt in my mind. I may have suffered financially, but fortunately I have a job and a stable income. I don't know what the future holds for me with a husband who talks out of his ass like that. It would be much better for a child to be raised by me alone. My husband and I got divorced, but fortunately, with the help of friends and family, I have managed to create an environment in which I can both raise my child and work. I will take good care of this child. I will raise him or her to be a great child. I feel that I am stronger now that I have an existence that is more important to me than my own life. I used to rely on my husband mentally, but from now on, as long as this child is with me, I will be able to overcome anything. It is often said that a mother is strong. The child that was born was a girl, a healthy child. I wanted to name her after my favorite author, so I named her Grace in the hope that she would be a smart child. Grace was bright and assertive even as a child. She was willing to help out around the house and worked hard at her studies. Since my family is also a single-parent family, we could not receive any financial support, so I could only afford to send her to community college. But she graduated without incident and was able to find a job smoothly. My daughter got a job at a local company. They do TV program production. My daughter is working as a secretary to the president, and sometimes she also makes proposals for programs. Thankfully, the president of the client company is also very kind to her. It has been 20 years since the divorce. One day, when I was shopping with my daughter, as we were walking down a street lined with restaurants, a man with a somewhat familiar face walked in front of us. I happened to run into my ex-husband. My ex-husband was walking alone with the man. I hadn't seen my ex-husband in a long time, and he looked much older. The wrinkles between his eyebrows were clearly etched, and his bad personality was showing on his face. My ex-husband stopped, stared at me, and spoke to me. Just when I think I see someone I've seen before, it's you. Oh, could the girl next to you be our daughter? You really gave birth to her? She looks normal. That's funny. Hey, what the hell? I couldn't contain my anger at my ex-husband's lack of decency and raised my voice. Suddenly, Grace looked at my ex-husband in the eye and greeted him in a calm voice. Nice to meet you, father who abandoned me. My name is Grace. You've got a lot of nerve saying that when you first meet someone. My daughter and my ex-husband had never met, but my daughter, who knew the situation, had always wanted to say something sarcastic to her father if she ran into him, and the time had finally come. I was impressed by how calmly she handled the situation, despite the fact that he had suddenly appeared right in front of her. When I looked to the side, I saw a man next to my ex-husband with a doubtful expression on his face. He seemed to be shaking a little. Who in the world is this man? Seeing the man behaving very sluggishly, my ex-husband spoke to him with a concerned look on his face. Ben, what's wrong? I'm sorry, Steve. This is my. He's in a cold sweat. The man next to him, Ben, seemed to know something. My ex-husband and I both saw the look on Ben's face which made us confused, but Grace seemed to get it right away. Apparently, this man was the general counsel of Grace's company. Ben had seen my daughter with the president of the company several times, so he seemed to know her only by her face. I'm sorry, Steve. Excuse me, he says and then ran away. Huh? What happened? To her father, who did not understand what was going on, Grace says, Dad, I hear you said some terrible things to my mom before I was born. I hope things are better for you now, and I know the man you were standing next to. Hey now, it was your mother who was the bad person. I don't know what she's been telling you, but she's just making me look bad. And how do you know Ben? He's an old man in your eyes. He's a secret. I feel bad about Ben, but that's enough for now. What the hell? Tell me. With a worried smile on her face, Grace says, Goodbye, father who left me and my mom. With that, we headed home. A few days later, the president of the company asked Grace to come up with a plan for a program that would send messages to people who wanted to get revenge on someone, and the idea was accepted. Grace told me that the idea came from Grace's desire to get payback on my ex-husband. Mom, why don't you go on the show? Let's use a TV show to punish my father for what he did to us. I thought for a moment that this might be a little rough, but it was the only way I could fight back against my ex-husband. That's interesting. If you say so, then I'll do it. And so, it was decided that I appear on the show. The taping of the show reminded me of that show I saw on TV, where a woman talked about her problems getting pregnant, and like the woman on the show, I told the story of my past while holding back the pain. I had already recovered from the pain, so I faked my tears. I was impressed with my acting ability. Naturally, the host and the performers in the audience reacted with scathing comments such as he's terrible and how heartless. I think the show had a certain amount of excitement to it. After the recording was over, Grace said, Mom, that was great. Thank you, she told me. Grace was all smiles. Right after the show aired, I received a call on my cell phone from my ex-husband. You were on TV, were you? You're going to expose me to the whole country. Why are you talking about me on TV? Steve called my cell phone. Apparently, he happened to be watching the show. Oh, I'm sorry. I just happened to get a chance to be on TV. I thought it would be a great opportunity, so I took it. It's all in the past, so it should be fine, I said with a laugh. Give me a break. I apologize. This is so embarrassing for me, I can't even go to work. Apologizing won't help. The guy with me the other day told me that he's a corporate lawyer now, and for some reason, he's asking me to apologize. What's your relationship with Ben? Ben is the general counsel for Grace's company. You didn't know that? Coincidences are a wonderful thing. But it's no use apologizing. Ben is helping us personally. You're being betrayed by someone you know because of your personality. No way. I can't believe Ben would do that. Is that all? I'm hanging up now. I ended the call. My ex-husband seemed so pathetic. Afterwards, Ben told me about my ex-husband's situation. There were a surprisingly large number of women in my ex-husband's company who had seen the show I was on, and word of my husband's true nature soon spread throughout the company. The reason why the rumor started is because there are still people working at my ex-husband's company who know me because he used to invite me to company barbecues when he was still married to me. It seems that because of the rumors, my ex-husband found it hard to go to work, and as a result, he resigned. There was no way he could find a job after that, so he was working part-time to make ends meet. There is no woman to take care of him, and he seemed to be living a lonely life on his own. On the other hand, I have a good job at my age. I have been asked to continue working, even after I reach retirement age. Grace is still working as the president's secretary, but she is a good worker and her income is increasing. And she is even planning to get married to the president's son. I can't help but look forward to the day in the future when my daughter will have a child.